out here, and a couple of my other friends with me today. That's Jeff. Oh, you want me to do the introduction? That's Jeff from Sit Down News, has a great mob podcast, as well as Michael Hollash. We've been doing this for a couple of years from the Reform Report. Thank you for having us. Go ahead, shoot.
Oh yeah, man. Welcome back, everybody.
I mean, not that way.
No, I mean, today I got, Frank on. If you want to give a little background, of yourself, and then, we can give a background of Jeff and then Michael as well.
Well, I got jammed up back in 2001, part of a big Bonanno family indictment. I grew up in Ridgewood, Queens, and I grew around a lot of interesting characters, and I'll let Jeff take over on that. What do you think, Jeff? My friends were interesting?
I would
it
say
seems like you knew more than I do. You know more than, about them than I do.
I would say they were. I mean, I've researched many farm teams, if you will, those kind of kids coming up in some of these neighborhoods that were, seen in mob neighborhoods. And I would say that the group that Frank, was affiliated with was probably the most violent, the most crazy. And we have to remember the difference between the Giannini crew and many of the others, like the Bath Avenue crew or the Tanglewood boys, is that the Giannini crew did work for all sorts of different families. They were connected with the Colombo crime family, the Gambino family, the Bonanno family. And they all kind of reported to someone different, if you will. They all had kind of a skipper. They weren't all, none of them were in the mob. Now, some are now, but yeah, I would say that Frank's crew was very lethal. And I want to say thank you for having me. It is important to make a distinction. I am not part of Sit Down News. That is John Panisi's podcast.
Oh, my bad. Sit down.
All good.
I'm sorry, Jeff.
That's all good, Frank. I am just the Sit Down, a Mafia History podcast. Go check it out. I'm happy to be with Frank and with Michael, who's on the Reform Report, and you as well. Thank you for having me, Adrian.
Oh, yeah, man. I appreciate you coming out. I mean, all you guys. I mean, Frank kind of organized this. I was just going to do an interview with him. He's like, hell, let's throw in Jeff, and Michael. And I was like, I was all for it, because like I was telling Mike, I was like, I've been checking out your guys' channels. I mean, I'm sure you've seen all my comments and stuff on yours today, Jeff, and you got some really interesting stuff, and so do you, Michael. I mean, you guys been doing this, for, I think Jeff, you've been doing it for 9 years or not 9 years, 9 months, right?
Real quick, I've been in media for a long time. I've started my podcast about a year ago. I've been in the sports betting space, the media space for, a long time, 2008, 2009. But as far as the mob stuff, I blogged about it when I was at Barstool Sports. But outside of that, I started the show about a year ago. And I know Michael's been around for a good amount of time. So he might be the most senior person here in this space.
He's the OG when it comes to this.
Maybe.
Kind of
ahead, Michael. What brought you into it?
I started the Reform Report in 2015. So yeah, it's been 7 years. I've been predominantly a interview platform. It's not so much a commentary like a lot of the other mob shows, and which I appreciate. I watch Jeff's show, and there's quite a few shows actually I watch. But I kind of targeted mine more to allow a platform for gentlemen who lived that life firsthand to share their experience, and on both sides of the law. I like we were talking about, to have guys who did investigations, worked operations, etc. And it's been very educational. It's like every interview, it's like I learn a lot more, not just about that individual, but other things that were going around their crew or crime family. And so it's been an educational experience for me, primarily. And I've enjoyed it, and so, yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt, but what I like about these guys is, and what's going on right now in this mob genre is you get a lot of this bull crap that's going on. It's turning into the Jerry Springer show. You don't get this with these guys, and in fact, they have something in common. They both interviewed Jeff Garcia, who strays away from that kind of scene. So it goes to show what type of guys these guys are when it comes to the mob genre. You know, they got a lot of respect there, and they're really good at what they do.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Yeah,
that,
they are.
Frankie.
I agree
Yeah,
with you.
and definitely. What do you guys got coming up?
Well, I just continue to work on my show. I put out videos each week. I have a podcast that goes hand in hand with it. And the goal is just continuing to grow the show. I wanted to say something interesting. I got a message a few weeks ago from an individual that told me that his 71-year-old mother enjoyed my show. And I was fascinated by that because, in the media world that I'm in, it's fairly younger, 21 to 45 or 50. And to get someone at that age that enjoys the show that I have was pretty cool. He sent me a video today of her receiving the message, and you would have thought she met John Lennon. I was blown away with how excited she
I like
was.
that.
Yeah, that's cool, to receive stuff like that because I don't consider myself look, I just do what I do. I have interests and try to throw them out there to people. But I guess the goal is to just continue to interview people, and mine's a little different. I think that's what's great about Michael and I. He does more of an interview genre. So does Adrian. I'm more of just someone that likes to tell a story. I'll occasionally interview somebody, but for me, it's more about just telling a story. And occasionally I'll meet someone like Frank or Judge Gleason from the Gotti trials, or Jack Garcia.
Great interview, by the way. Very good interview.
Thank you. Yeah. So
Yeah, good job.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
So just about growing what I'm doing, and hopefully that continues.
Are you familiar with Judge Gleason, Adrian?
You have to do a lot more legwork, a lot more research, and everything to do. The commentary platform. It's a lot of work, a lot of research.
Yeah, it is. But
respect to him.
Real quick, and I don't mean to interrupt. We're a little delayed, some of us, but I enjoy telling the stories. I like to find someone different. And look, I think the goal is, as Frank kind of alluded to, this space is really cordoned off by a lot of just lunatics, and I think it's important. I think it's important we kind of just keep the history alive. And I know a lot of people think the mob's really only John Gotti and Al Capone and Vincent Gigante, but there's really so many interesting characters that have really come through the different ranks, and that's
Right.
where I discovered people like Frank or some of the individuals he ran with. So it's important to tell their stories because, in essence, a lot of them are a lot more interesting than some of these people we know a lot about.
Yeah, because they were actually there.
Well, and that's how I got
it. Adrian?
I'm from Tampa, so my specialty was Tampa. The
Santo Trafficante is your guy.
Yeah. So
how about you, Adrian? Who do you find fascinating?
Well, I mean, I've done a lot of mob interviews and stuff recently. So, my most recent one was with John A-Light. That one went pretty good. He's a pretty cool guy. We just talked and did about 45 minutes, and I don't know. I think it went really well. But I've met a lot of different other guys. Through the because like I said, I do a lot of the interviews and stuff. So I've done Bobby Luisi, Larry Mazza, Frank. I can't ever say his last name. That Di Matteo.
Di Matteo, yeah.
There you go.
What was Di Matteo was with the Columbos, wasn't he, Jeff?
Yep.
Yeah, Frank Di Matteo was with the Gallo crew. No, he actually wrote some really good books on not only Joey Gallo, but he wrote an interesting book on Sonny DiBiase, who many people believe is the killer of Joe Gallo. So yeah, he's an interesting guy. I think for me, I've always found Joey Gallo pretty interesting. I'm always fascinated by these revolutionary types that they really kind of tell the mob, look, I'm going to do it my way. And look, in the end, it's their undoing, and they're off because that's not how the mob works. But Joey Gallo was always very interesting, and Di Matteo
he is. He was. Yeah. He's definitely that Hollywood good fella, if you will. I found him always to be very interesting.
Didn't he do the Mob Candy magazine? Didn't he do that?
Yeah.
The Di Matteo did. The Joe Gallo. I mean, Bob Dylan even wrote a song about him.
He did.
Right.
Yeah, he was definitely a unique individual in that life. Who's the most fascinating guys you guys ever interviewed? All three of you. Who would you find very interesting?
Well, look, I'm pretty close. I mean, I would say I'm probably friends with Jack Garcia at this point. I find his story to be pretty interesting. He's a guy that obviously I think kind of fit the, we always hear about Donnie Brasco and some of the stuff that Joe Stone did, but you can make the case that Jack Garcia did more damage at certain points. He was very
I find him more credible as well. Jack Garcia is more credible than Donnie Brasco. And I've heard it from the horse's mouth. I've been in jail with these guys that dealt with Donnie Brasco. Nobody's ever put a $400,000 tag on his head. That's bullshit. You can forget about it. No, even Joe Messina said, hey, look, and he said it himself. I heard him say, he's a fucking fad. Ain't nobody going to want to kill this freaking guy.
There's also growing reason to believe. And I think, one of the things about this space as well is, like any space, there's a lot of information that goes around that I don't think is particularly credible and or believable. And I think some of the people in this space, in particular, someone like OC Shorts and people like that, I think they do a great job at kind of maybe dispelling of some of these rumors. And one of them was in particular, a lot of people believe Sonny Black Napolitano was murdered because of his affiliation to Donnie Brasco. And, there's growing sentiment that wasn't true. And he was killed because of his leadership qualities. A lot of people.
Right. Oh, yes.
We've talked about that,
Michael.
Yeah, we've talked about that. I
have talked about that. No, that was a power move by Joe Messina. We could talk about that all day. But it's fascinating. Who was involved in that murder was this Ronnie Filicomo. You ever heard of him?
Yeah, he had a monkey.
I was in jail with him. Better known as Monkey Man.
Yep.
Did I ever tell you the story why he was called Monkey Man?
Well, he had a monkey, I believe.
He had a monkey. The monkey's name was Stacy. He was about 6 years old. And he hung out at this bar that Frank Lino had called the Wrong Number. This monkey we're talking about here, he was like the inspiration to the drunken monkey on Mob Wives, because they used to have him drink at the bar. He used to come down, get a seat. He was a chimpanzee, and this is coming from Ronnie's mouth. He told me this himself. And he used to have a shot and hang out there until Ronnie came back from work and take him around. And that's how he got the name Monkey Man. And not only that, one time he shut down the whole Verrazano Bridge. Ronnie's dad was driving him, and he got right up. He jumped out the window and he closed the Verrazano Bridge. This monkey did. It was funny shit.
Wow, that's a hilarious story. I didn't know that stuff, and that's why.
He was telling me and Jack DeRoss this story. So Jack, he was all about it. You know what I mean? Trying to pick his brain because, Ronnie had this chemical imbalance. He was a correction officer. That's why he never got made. But he was involved in that Sonny Black murder.
Yes, he was. I think he allowed. I think it was his father's home that they did it in, and they.
That's correct. Yeah. His dad was a made guy, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so.
And that's where it happened back then. Frank Lino was involved in that. So Ronnie got indicted late. Frank Copa, the first guy to ever be indicted to become a rat in the Bonanno family, actually brought in Lino on that murder, and Lino brought in Filicomo.
Oh, okay.
And that's how that happened. This guy was like married happily for 20 years.
Was Bruno Delicato involved in that?
Who?
Bruno and Delicato, was he involved in that hit?
I don't believe so. The Frank Copa, Lino, Messino obviously was at the crime scene.
Of course.
And matter of fact, Sonny was a real tough guy. When they shot him, he knew he was going. He said, "Hit me again, give me a better one," something to that nature, And
if you remember, again, Bruno ended up going on the run after his father was killed. As far as
that's right.
Yeah. So then he ended up getting indicted for the Galante hit in '86 with the commission
case.
Yeah, and Bruno actually, I believe, just was released to a halfway house. As far as I know, he'll be home pretty soon.
His release is coming up. Like his full release is coming up for sure. He's gonna be back out on the street.
Right.
Damn. So you think he'll be doing interviews?
Back home.
Yeah, a lot of people are definitely coming back. So is that a lot of these guys?
Yeah.
So you think, what do you think this is going to do? You think they're going to jump into this mob stuff too? This whole genre?
Depends on the individual. I don't know. I mean, I've been at it
on the internet.
I'm sorry.
On the street.
What do you mean? Get onto the internet?
Yeah, the internet.
No.
No.
No, if you hold your mud, you're not going to come back on the internet.
Well, I'll tell you
Yeah.
right now,
I guess
and this is just the truth of the matter. They would make a lot of money on the internet. They'd probably make more money than they will in the street. That's the truth. I mean, but
That is the truth.
as Frank alluded to, these individuals, a lot of the people we're talking about, whether it's Bruno, whether it's John Carneglia came home recently, last year or two. These are stone cold Gene Gotti. These are stone cold people. These are not guys that you're going. These are guys that did 50 years because they wouldn't take a plea.
Nicky Carrazzo is another one.
Yeah. I mean, there's a guy, Jackie knows D'Amico. I mean, he's in his 80s. I think he'd have some fascinating stories.
Right.
But these guys, they hold what they were a part of close. They're not going to put anybody in, and I wish they would, because some of the people that are on YouTube as far as that life, I think are kind of played out with some of the same old stories. But
right. Well, and two, those guys, I mean, nothing for nothing, but those guys, were captains, and they've been in the family a long time. A guy like Nicky Carrazzo goes back.
They're old school. They're old school.
Yeah, real old school. Early 70s.
Well, what I mean by that is they're so old. They're the type of guys that anybody even talk about in the mob, even in a positive way, is regarded a fucking rat. You know what I mean?
Right.
So they're not gonna. Yeah, they don't believe in anybody. They still think, some of them still think that the mafia. Well, they go by the mafia don't exist kind of bullshit. The ones they're under that microscope too, so they'll never admit to nothing.
Damn.
Right.
So Frank, when you were, when you became an associate, what roles did you do?
I don't think I ever became an associate. I think I was born under that. These guys could tell you too. I was born under that watch. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what was your roles, I guess, when you became of age?
I didn't have a role. My role was to become a made guy and do whatever I got to do to become a made guy. And so I did stupid shit. Me and my friends did, and that was it. There was a time where I think I wasn't gonna go. That wasn't so easy because I was doing stupid things.
When you look at the people that Frank grew up around, I mean, it was really all they were likely going to be. And I think Frank will tell you that. I mean, all the people that he grew up with, whether it was Ace Aiello, Paul Ragusa, Tabita, eventually meeting Vito Guzzo, I mean, all those individuals were connected to either large-scale drug dealers. Vito Guzzo's father was in that life. Tabita had relations in that life. So these are people that grew up, within the Sicilian community that most of their fathers, uncles, brothers, maybe, or whatever, they were involved with the life. And it was really something that I think they were almost destined to be, and
it
I
was
think
like a cult.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
No, absolutely. We had that kind of mentality. We didn't trust outside. I ask sometimes, would you ever commit crimes again? And I'm like, no, because most of these people I grew up with, I knew since kindergarten. You understand? So I'm not going to meet somebody now and say, hey, let's form something or do something, because I don't trust anybody. Do you understand?
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's basically because how we all grew up together. We didn't have to know the individual. We had to know the father and the grandfather, and that's how we grew up in that neighborhood.
Right.
Yeah,
We're pretty close knit.
Well,
yeah. You trust people like that. Yeah. Did you ever become made then?
No. I didn't become. I got arrested, and I don't think I was gonna become made in that era. Not now or after, whatever. They were looking at one point. There were so many, and I use this term cowboys. You know what that means, right? Guys just going around shooting and everything. There were so many of us in the 90s doing that type of shit that they were looking at the earners, guys who make money for their family. And there was kids or relatives of mine that were getting made at a young age, and they did get made, but in a lot of cases that bit the Bonanno family in the ass.
Damn. So that's
Paul
when
Canarella, if you remember that one, as being one.
So what was kind of the downfall of the family, when it all started, when did you seen it or noticed it?
I have said this before. I've noticed it in jail, because up to then we didn't have no cooperators. The first one was that one who was involved in that Sonny Black murder. And then after that, we went from no cooperators to the family with most cooperators.
Damn.
In a matter of, I'm saying about, I don't know, 3 years.
So that
What do you
really,
remember about that time? Any guys could help me about the Bonanno family there?
Well,
I mean, it's what.
I mean, I think the thing about the Bonannos, and I've said this before, and I've gotten flack for it, and I think if you disagree, I just don't think you know that much about this history. You know, at one point, I think Joe Massino in the late '90s, early 2000s, before his cooperation, probably was one of the more effective bosses in the history of the American Mafia.
Oh, I totally agree. We talked about this. Totally.
Yeah, nobody talks about it. I mean, he took that family through a lot of hard waters. I mean, he made them into really a powerful group. And in fact, at one point, an individual in the Genovese family, Alan Longo, was caught on wiretap discussing that, you know, Joe's family is right up there with the Gigante group. And by Joe's family, he meant Bonanno. I mean, they were very powerful. They had no cooperators. They were really a ticking, you know, kind of entity. They were in stocks. They were in all sorts of high-end entities. And, you know, I don't think people realize, you know, when everything dropped in the early 2000s, when Vitali gets arrested after Copa and Cantarella and all these guys get jammed up, I mean, dominoes just started falling and everybody in front of them just cooperated. And then before you knew it, Joe Massino goes to trial and has 7 informants on the stand against him.
Right.
He realized
his own captains, right? Absolutely.
Yeah, you had, and yet his own brother-in-law who decided to say, you know what, I'm going to go against my family, a guy that I knew since I was a kid. I mean, it's just, and then eventually he, you know, Massino wires up, goes into the bullpen in MDC and gets Vinny Gorgeous life. So, you know, the family that we once knew, it was a shell, really.
Right. Yeah, I think, you know, and Jack Garcia and I had this conversation the other day, you know, in a situation like that, it becomes like a business decision in a way. You know, I mean,
definitely.
You know,
it was a business to Joe Massino.
His back's against the wall, and you know, there is no honor amongst thieves. You know, at the end of the day,
right.
So he's going to do what's in his best interest, just like he would on the street as a boss. He's going to do what's in his best interest. His back's against the wall, and it becomes like a business decision.
Oh yeah. I remember when everybody was flipping one after the other. Jack the Ross started singing that Karen Carpenter song, the one "It's Only Just Begun," in a real cheesy Las Vegas type style. He's like, "It's only just begun," because he was like, he wasn't getting the. I mean, we were getting demolished, and it was like, who's gonna go now? And I think it was like after Frank Lino, and then even when Monkey Man came in, and Jack was Jack the Ross was like, "How long you think this guy's gonna last?" I was like, "I don't fucking know, man." But that's how it was. It was becoming a joke.
Yeah, they were really. I mean, the family really just dropped like flies. I mean, you had. I mean, once Massino goes away, he establishes a pecking order of guys up to the top that were making decisions. Before you know it, one of the individuals involved with that, Tartaglione, he cooperates. He then takes Tony Urso off the street. Vinny Gorgeous had been arrested. You know, you even look at, you know, down to, you know, Vinny Asaro, for instance. I mean, towards the end with Vinny, and Vinny's still alive, he's in his 80s. Vinny Asaro, you know, been around forever. You know, he started becoming desperate, right? You look at some of these old timers like Asaro. I talked about the desperation for Asaro, who, you know, really got to a point where no money was coming in. He started doing business with his nephew. His nephew was also someone that started hanging around with the wrong people. He gets involved with an individual called Gene Borello. Before you know it, Vinny's jammed up. Ronnie's doing 14 years. And Gene's, you know, a cooperator. And that part of the family is almost taken out. So, you know, it's not only the fact that you're getting people that are cooperating, but you're doing business with some of these low-end individuals that have come into the life that maybe didn't grow up the same way they did. That also really damaged them. That's a major problem for a lot of these old timers. They start palling around with these reckless, you know, nuts, and before you know it, you know, they're getting real stupid.
It's the brokesters, though. It's the same pattern. We could go back to Lefty Gun.
Another one. Yeah, he's another one.
Who gets them? I mean, who gets infiltrated in the mob? Who gets the brokesters? The feds know that,
right?
You know, and there's a lot. And you know, when you owe money, or you're even a made guy, and you got to make up with your, you lost a whole bunch of money at the track, and now you come out, you start not looking at people the same way as somebody who has money.
Right.
You know, I have money. I'm not going to look at this. This guy comes up to me and goes, "You want to buy a watch?" I'm like, "Get the fuck out of here. I don't even know who you are."
Right.
You know, now if I'm a brokester, I'm like, "Yeah, let me check that watch out." You know what I mean? And so that's how they get infiltrated. They know they got marks. The feds have marks. Believe that.
Right. Well, and look, I mean, going back to the Pistone and Garcia case, I mean, Pistone targeted, lefty to get into Sonny Black's pool or to get around those guys. And, Jack knew that De Palma talked a lot,
I think, yes, absolutely. Yeah. And back to Pistone, he gave Lefty a legacy that's, I mean, I seen a lot of paperwork because I was arrested with about 80 Bonanno associates, the Bonanno made guys, and I seen the paperwork coming in. And very rarely did you see anything when it came up to violence with Lefty. You know, the minute Pistone comes out and writes a book, he says that this guy's responsible for about 200 bodies. What the fuck? I don't think nobody in the history, maybe Carmine Galante, is responsible for fucking 200 bodies. I never seen him in paperwork of even having one body.
Right.
You know, and this indictment went back to 1975, Joe Messino's first murder.
Right.
I think one thing we can say about, and look, I don't like to give the government much credit because I think they do a lot of bad stuff. But I think at the end of the day, we have to give the government credit for you're really doing a pretty unbelievable job. Now, some of the methods they did were a bit questionable, but the truth is, I mean, you look at a family like the Bonanno family. I mean, they have been extremely hit hard by, just the indictment. I mean, and the mob has really been hit in general by the indictment. The RICO statute was incredibly important to the mob and in bringing them down. And you look at where the mob is now, there's still some power in it. But when we look at the pecking order of where the mob is and the criminal element, I wouldn't say it's particularly high. I mean, obviously they have other problems this country government-wise, but, the mob has really been hit hard. I mean, you look at most of the high-end people that we talked about. I mean, whether it was Vinny Asaro or Joe Messino or Vitali or any of these guys, they were all indicted. I mean, you look at some of the administration now, they've had to battle tons of indictment. So, yeah, the government did a pretty good job with extinguishing the mob for the most part.
They have, but I mean, go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying
Mike,
I agree with you about that.
I do, but I mean, think about it. How much work does the federal government has to do these days? They got so many informants. I mean, yes, they get the informants, of course. But, I mean, you got 8 guys corroborating stories. You got indictments like nothing. It's not like one guy, 2 guys. Yes, there are some cases that are shady. There was a friend of mine, an ex-friend of mine who just got out of jail recently. I thought they arrested him on shaky terms. I thought it was an entrapment. That's my thing. You know what I mean? Right. It's not the most, and you know who we're talking about, Jeff.
I do. Yeah, for sure.
And it wasn't.
Real quick, and look, like I said, I don't agree with the methods that the government has went to. I think without informants, that the mob would be an absolute machine right now.
Sure.
But the truth is, I mean, they'll just go back and say, I remember when I had Gleason on, I asked him about that. I said, how do you do a deal with an individual like Sammy Gravano, a known admitted killer of probably a dozen plus people on his own? And he basically alluded to the fact that, well, Sammy took 50 or so guys off the street that collectively have a lot more bodies and have done a lot more harm. So I think they're always going to say that they have a reason to why they do things. Do I think it's the right way to do things? No. And you also look at the police system as well. That's a problem. That's why the Fed's conviction rate so high, because they basically put you between a rock and a hard place and say, look, you either plea or you're going to have to go and we're going to stick it to you and give you life. And, pleas are another way. They'll take 10 years off your life and they'll just assume that you'll do something stupid in prison and get another 10 or 20 years. So, that's really hard to beat.
Frank,
look at, in a situation like with Gravano, I mean, obviously they know they're doing a deal with the devil, but if you want to put it into a larger context, I mean, it's the same thing. It's that ideology of like in World War II, you know, America was totally anti-communist, but fascism and Nazism was
Right. Let's give money to the mob to get rid of the commies.
They're going to side with Stalin and pull him in and squeeze out Germany. I mean, so it's almost like the same type of context. You're making a deal with the devil to take out a greater evil, you know?
Well, the lesser of the two evils. Yeah, I agree. I mean, and they say, you heard it before, Jeff. Sometimes when you're prosecuting the devil, you have to go to hell to get the witnesses. You know what I mean?
Well said.
True that.
And basically, that's what it comes down to. Yeah, the United States has gone to bed with other countries to fight a necessary evil, a bigger evil. We've done it in Afghanistan and Iran and even in Sicily back in the 50s against the communists.
Right.
Frank, what was your experience with, you know, when they were, you know, cutting a deal with you and stuff, you know, when you got locked up, you know, how did that kind of go down?
Well, they don't cut deals with you. they listen to you and they say, we present your evidence or what you give us and we present it to a judge within time. It's called a 5K1 letter. You guys are familiar with that? And they present it to the judge. Now, if the judge feels like that you help the government in a significant amount, they're going to give you what they feel is right. You know, it doesn't always work that you're going to get a good deal. There's judges that don't agree on cooperators, and then you get the wrong judge, you're going to get 20 years, 25 years. You know, I got lucky. I got time served.
See, that's a big misconception because people think that when they sit down to do their 302s that there's
deal. There's no deal.
Stone. There is no deal set in stone. You know?
No.
So the only time they offer deals is when they know that that person's going to have some information.
Well, what I'm saying is like, so
they'll give you a deal. They give you a 5K1 deal, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to throw you a number. A number is never negotiated.
Right. All they can do is suggest to the judge, like, this guy was very valuable to our investigation, and he was able to bring us, you know, 24 indictments, and we took such and such off the street. And then the judge can, obviously, he's going to do a sentence reduction, but, you know, like Frank said,
nothing's guaranteed. I'll give you a great story. There's and then I'm going to have to go. There's this guy, the Scores guy, Michael Bluich. He was that lawyer. He was involved. We're a wire on the Gambino family and all the 9 yards. Never had a violent crime in his life. We're a wire, always in danger. So the what's the Third Circuit of the New York office? He had another case in Florida where he embezzled a whole bunch of old people. He took a whole bunch of money off them and everything like that. So he figured he was going to get time served for what he did with the wire. He wore a wire. They have him. They go to New York and he gets time served. Then they sentence him in Florida and the judge gives him 20 years.
Yep.
The feds are like, wait a minute. This guy helped put a lot of people away. Have you ever heard of John Gotti? The judge goes, and this is coming out of his mouth. The judge goes, no, I never heard of John Gotti at all. He goes, and you're getting 20 years. He ended up getting 12 years, doing 12 years in jail. Never did anything. So this guy didn't care who he
defrauding the elderly down here is a big deal, dude.
He got hit hard in Florida. They were like, I don't care who you told on, whatever. You took hundreds of millions of dollars off these poor people out there, and you're gonna pay. You're gonna go to jail.
Yeah, you pay with your time. You know what I mean?
He claims he paid his money all up. I don't talk to him, but he claimed he paid his money. I said in an interview he paid back every cent. Who knows?
Well, he probably got hit with a big restitution, I'm sure. You know.
Well, I heard. I heard it on Anderson Cooper. He was on that, and that's where he said something like that. But every case is different.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you think of cooperating deals, Jeff?
Well, look, I think a judge would have to be a real, tough tough dude to not give a cooperator kind of what they're expected. I think I don't know if I've ever heard of, outside maybe one or two, maybe the story you talked about, with someone that was not given, a really light sentence. And in fact, I mean, you look at Joe Messino. Joe Messino, I think, did like 10 years, I think, for all.
He got a sweet deal.
Yeah. So yeah, as far as me, I'm always one to kind of say, I'm not in that life, and I don't have to face the decisions that those people do.
Sure.
I take every cooperator story different. I think if they're contrite and they kind of are they take kind of what they did and say, you know what, I did what I did, and that was that. I think they're all different. I think we should judge them on what they are and who they are now. But yeah, I don't diss or like them. I don't know if I personally agree with it. I feel like if I were in that life, I maybe would take the consequence, but that's easy to say now. I'm not faced with it. So I don't really give too much opinion on it. I will ask Frank one thing. I've never asked you this, Frank. Did you ever meet Nikki Glasses ever?
Nikki Glasses.
Marangello.
Why does that sound familiar?
It was a pretty high up guy in the Bonanno family. I was just
curious.
No. I know who you're talking about. Out of Little Italy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I never had. I see. That's why I'm confused. I met Willie Glasses.
Yeah, Ravella, right? Yeah.
Yes, he was also a co-defendant of mine, older guy. Actually knew my uncle back in the day. My uncle John was good friends with him.
Yeah.
So I think he's passed away since.
Yeah, he did.
Bronx guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Willie Glasses. Huh?
I was just gonna say, I
had my glasses picked up.
Did you guys have anything else you wanted to add? Because I know you guys all have some stuff going on.
I'm kind of on time. I'm fine. How about you guys?
I just wanted to say, my buddy Scott Dici, his book came out. It's called Hitmen, the Mafia, Drugs in the East, Harlem Purple Gang. It's on the Purple Gang, and that just dropped. So hopefully people can go out and pick that up. Scott's a good guy. He does a lot. He's done a lot of research as well on Tampa. He's down here in Tampa with me, and I helped him with that a little bit. Not much. I just got some questions answered for him for a guy that was connected to Meldish, and so it should be a pretty good book. So, and then Frankie and I have some things coming out with Nat Geo that are coming up. Yeah. We can't get too much into
when's that coming out, by the way?
It should be.
That's pretty soon, I think.
In about a month and a half to 8 weeks.
Cool deal. Yeah. Jeff, what do you got?
Yeah, I got nothing. Appreciate having me on. I will say, when it comes to the Meldish crew, that's a very interesting story. I think over the next year or so, it wouldn't surprise me if the individuals they're doing life for that crime allegedly, I would think they get a new trial, from what I understand and what I've seen. We'll see.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this.
Yes.
Real quick, Joe Meldish,
I agree with you.
Michael's brother was a very violent individual, and I'm looking forward to reading that book.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, he did a lot of research on that book, and he interviewed quite a few people that were directly and indirectly connected to the Purple Gang. So should be pretty good. So all right, guys.
I agree. It's not the most popular thing for me to say, but that trial stinks. It really did.
Right.
And it is what it is. I hope everything turns out for the right result comes out. That's fair enough.
Right.
Okay, thank you for having me.
All right, guys. Take care.
Thank you for making this happen.
Take it easy, guys.
You too, man.